Is power creep needed in Genshin? For the past year and a half, Genshin has regressed with much of the content, and when it comes to a majority of their character releases, coming out with characters like A, B, and C, we're going backwards in power creep. However, when it comes to Genshin and the future of the next half of its mainline story, a la the next 3 odd years till we reach the coveted Conrian storyline, what should we actually be expecting from Genshin in terms of its gameplay mechanics? And also, if Dekton is watching, what's up? With that being said, let's start the conversation of power creep in the context of Genshin. Going into year 2 of Genshin, the largest form of power creep could be seen through individual characters, such as Raiden Shogun, Yoimiya, and Yelan. 3 characters who generally just improved on the gameplay of previous characters and not really bringing anything new to the table. However, when it came to Sumeru, we found ourselves being thrusted into a new age where Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and quickened teams ran through the Spiral Abyss, and even allowed early game players to blaze through content due to the ease of access of cheap Dendro options. Honestly, I think I can speak for everybody in that Dendro was an overall positive introduction into the game, bringing in new interactions as well as lifting up characters like Keckwing and Cookie in the process. And here's when the conversation shifts. When it comes to power creep, there becomes an inherent problem amongst other games that Genshin actually doesn't have. Let me explain, and after I'll be sharing 3 ways in which why power creep is needed. Let's take a game like League of Legends. Now, I don't play League, and I'm definitely not a rocket scientist, but the mere fact that they introduce a character like Briar that is able to get insane buffs while chasing down people versus the older junglers, although the gap is not that large and people can still play them, the meta dictates that you should be using these characters if you want to have a better competitive advantage, and that is just it. Where is Genshin's competitive advantage if you were to power creep units? It's literally not there. There is no ladder system nor PvP mode that you would need to balance your units around in order to keep people using other units or having balance to unit usage. Power creep only becomes a problem when it dissuades the usage of other units in favor of the better units. In Genshin's case, it has only been an enhancing factor and has allowed other units to shine versus pushing other units away, since we're still able to use those said units in combat and exploration. Looking at the most recent banner releases of Neuvillette, the discussion of him against an Ayato is obviously clear as day. The damage our newest otter friend outputs is just drastically higher than that of Ayato. There's no doubt. But is there any competitive advantage that you're getting if both can comfortably clear the Spiral Abyss? Granted, you actually haven't invested properly into those both. Not at all. What Genshin has been great at providing is a combat system that is not always necessarily dictated by single characters. Well, with the exception of these. But regardless, the rewards that you receive from clearing X or Y content is all the same. And those who have used an older team or the newer shiny teams, there is no difference in the outcome, meaning that there is a false perception of a meta that other games have adopted due to their actual competitive nature. Now, to reel back the conversation back to power creep and why I believe it is necessary and an eventuality that we must go down, there are several reasons for this. First, story. Yes, the story of Genshin has already alluded to different and higher powers that are most likely related to quantum and imaginary elemental classes that we've actually seen from other Honkai titles. Now, these elements will most likely have their own interactions, however, it would be such a disservice to the game, the community, and player base if you were to make those elements subpar. If Dainsleif turned out to be worse performing than the other characters that we have in our roster, why wouldn't we just play with them? Well, except if you're Minsleif, and if you want your new characters to sell, they better bring something different or better to enhance the gaming experience of your players. The second larger point, segueing from enhancing the game experience, is bringing something new and fresh to the game. From Sumeru, we received the Dendro element, and from Fontaine, we've gotten the new diving system, which hasn't really moved the needle combat-wise, but the exploration aspect has been incredibly fun. When it comes to the next 3 large chapters of Genshin, there just can't be more ways to explore. Eventually, we will get tired of exploring in said new gimmicky fashion. Let me know in the comments if y'all have already been exhausted of diving. But as so far as new elements or mechanics to the game, the largest has seemed to be the introduction of a new element. And you can say that Osea and Numa are new mechanics, and to some extent I can agree, but they seem so trivial and the combat seems no different than from what we've had before. Oh, I need 3 Numa or Jshoea attacks to disable this mech? How about I just use my Power Washer 3000 to blast it to Kingdom Come? There is no weight to the addition of the new arc element in the game, and it definitely shows, or doesn't show, when you're fighting. The third larger point is that power creep can be applied in tasteful ways to expand horizontally. Dendro was an amazing example of expanding vertically without breaking core mechanics. We are still able to use vaporized teams and freeze teams of old, but let's take a look back at characters like Amber, Lisa, and Kaya. Yes, again, you can still use them, but would it not be more enticing if they were much better fits or in line with damage as the newer characters? And one of the ways to apply this without having to inherently buff those characters straight up is through higher ascensions of the character. A level 100 that potentially could unlock a new talent passive or potentially a new type of skill in which the characters uniquely own to their ascension. It wouldn't have to be the most broken skill, ability, buffs in the game, but can introduce a new aspect to the character that gives them value on a team versus those who don't have those ascensions. And one of the games in my personal experience that does it well is Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, another old gacha game. Granted, not too many people play it anymore, simply for the pacing of the game growing too fast. But Genshin seems to be on the opposite direction in that it's growing too slow in terms of character gameplay. We've got reskins and combined kits of older characters like Cryo Heizo, Pyro Ganyu. They're not inspired, and we either could use a different element or creative kits, which Genshin has been hit or miss so far in Fontaine, as well as a whole new ascension to upgrade previous older characters. There are many ways to horizontally grow the cast in a way that is not intrusive to the core gameplay mechanics that I think many people and most likely Hoyoverse is already toying with. And just as an added point, as of this recording, Navia has yet to be released, and already we've heard that she's being buffed in both her kit and her designated artifact set. It's great to see that Navia is hopefully going to be more in line with the more modern damage numbers, and hopefully is a character that can inspire usage of the Geo element, since it has been in such a middling state ever since they attempted to buff it back in the early stages of Genshin's release. Some people are already going to be using her, but wouldn't it be better for Hoyoverse if they had more people pulling? More people pulling equals more money after all. But what do you think? Do you think these ideas are good for Genshin? There are obviously counter arguments to all of these points, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and please share this so we can continue the conversation. My name is Josh, and click on our videos here to see what we have cooking up. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.